All right, we are live. So I just finished Iron Therapy with Dave Palumbo, and there was a bunch of responses I got uh, from Instagram, and we didn't get a chance to address them on the show. So I wanted to make sure I addressed them here. So where do I start? So one of the pieces from the Instagram poll that we did that was put up yesterday. This has to do with distractions in bodybuilding. And one of the audience members had said, not being able to zone out while training. Zone out or zone in? I'm not sure. If it's zoning in, how to basically focus when you're training can be tricky because we get distracted really easily. And sometimes we get distracted. Keep in mind, why do we get distracted when we're training, when we're in the gym? And a lot of times it's because we don't have that focus if we don't have more of a goal. So what I would do is suggest, if you're having a hard time getting into that zone when you're training, I want you to set yourself a little mini challenge for that day. So what do I mean by mini challenge? So pick a body part, whatever body part that might be. Whatever that you normally do, either choose a different machine or a different movement for that body part just to add a little bit more interest, or make a bit of a challenge, whether it be a drop set, whether it might be mixing things up and do a lighter weight and do slower eccentrics. So when I say eccentrics, it's, let's say if you're doing a pushing movement, you're bringing the bar down for like 1 Mississauga, 2 Mississauga, 3 Mississauga. You pause just for a moment and then you push up for a chest press as an example. Mix your training up because chances are you're a little bored. And if you're not getting ready for a show, sometimes when we don't have specific goals, our attention can wander a little bit more. When we're more goal oriented as far as a show, and I'm not saying everyone has to do a show, that's not the case at all. But if you're not doing if you don't have a show to train for yourself to say, how can I make this workout a little bit more interesting? So whether, again, swap out some of the exercises, swap out maybe the order. So stick with the same body part, but change it up a little bit. Maybe it's shorter. I don't know if you know much about Jay Cutler, but I'll call Jay Cutler the 12 repetition king. So what I mean by that is he does 12 repetitions typically for a lot of his exercises. Okay, do 12. Or, maybe do another set where you're dropping the weight and you might do 20 depending on what it is. Or you might, and he does short rest periods, by the way. So again, mix things up to make things more interesting. And that's how you can be more engaged in your workout session, by setting these like mini little goals for yourself, like a little contest for yourself. Wonder what I can do. It's not just, can I lift more weight? How can I make this weight even heavier than what it actually represents? So what I mean by that is, like I said, slow down the eccentrics and that weight will get really heavy. Now, anyone who's on the channel right now, welcome to the channel. If you want to ask questions, the main topic today is distractions in bodybuilding. Feel free to post questions in the chat and I'll be happy to address them. Until I see any questions, I'm just going to kind of ramble on based on what the Instagram input was. But again, I'm happy to address anything you guys have to say in the chat. So another is comparing yourself with other people. That's a very big distraction. Why? And again, if you're comparing yourself, oh, they have this better than me. They have, whether it's bigger legs or bigger arms, or they're more toned, or they have a more condition, whatever that might be, we're comparing ourselves that other person or those other people are better than us. And that might be the case, but keep in mind that you might have some things that are better than them, but we don't focus on that. We only focus on, what we don't have and the other person does have. When was the last time you looked at another person and say, well, I've got this quality, but they don't? Now you might, if you're in a competitive mode, but let's say you're not competing. A lot of times, if anything, we put ourselves down when we do the comparison thing. And it also wastes time, because if you're going to do a comparison, do the full blown comparison. Is that person better fit in better shape because they just did a show and maybe you haven't done a show? Let's put some context in it. If you're off season and they're in prep, well, you're going to have a different look. So it's understandable. So why are you comparing yourself to someone who is very different? Now, let's say you're in prep and someone else is you're comparing yourself to someone else that's in prep in your category. Okay, let's say they were genetically more gifted than you. You're like, oh, I wish I had that. Okay, yeah, you probably do. I do too. I go through that too. But it's also saying, okay, what can you bring to the table? Remember, Instagram pictures, assuming they're not filtered, and I think we all know that a lot of people filter their pictures. Not everyone, but a lot of people do. But even if the pictures are not filtered, how someone looks, if you've ever competed or watched a show, you know this yourself. How people look on Instagram, even the days before a show, and how they look on show day can be very different. Because on Instagram, you might be, oh, they're going to win. They're going to for sure win because they look so much better than the other competitors that are posting also on Instagram. But on show day, it's a surprise. Why? A lot happens. And keep in mind, it's not that they didn't look good. And again, let's assume that the pictures were not filtered. A lot happens with the depletion in the carb up process. So it's not to say that they didn't train properly. It doesn't mean that they weren't eating according to plan. Sometimes our body doesn't respond well, or what happens with, if you guys are familiar with this carb loading concept, is to help you make you look fuller and more bubblier on stage. Your muscle bellies are rounder. If we eat too many carbs, we can do what something is called spilling over. So it makes us look really watery and you can't see the lines, let's say in the legs. We look really soft. It looks like you need to be on a diet. It's not that. It's just you ended up carb loading too much. And it's a bit of a gamble. You don't know. There's never a for sure formula. And even if you found the perfect way and you documented exactly what you did on your peak week, again, peak week is 7 days leading up to your show. If you documented when you cut water, when you increased water, if you had changed your salt, what exactly you did, and then you did really, really well, the best presentation of your life. You follow that the next show, it may not give you the same results. Our body constantly adapts. So yes, you can try to do the best you can, and it's nice to have another set of eyes which are educated, and that's why I recommend you have a coach. But are they going to know 100%? No, but based on their experience, they know much better probably than you do, especially if you're not a coach, how to get you to that leanness and to that bubbliness. And having that combination is very tricky to do. And also when you're in prep, you're not thinking that clearly. So it's nice to have someone who's more sane that can make those decisions for you. Now, say food temptations. I'm just going down the list. There's always going to be food temptations, guys. Always, always. It's not a matter of, now some people are really good and they'll once they start a prep, they never cheat. And that's great. I wouldn't say that's the majority of people. Most athletes do look forward to when they're able to have, and it may not be like a sugary treat, but it might be something like a burger and fries. So that would be something that they would do, is to carb load when they get close to the show, assuming that they were depleted enough and that they were following, their body was fine before the show. When we're talking about food, again, when I'm talking about food temptations, it also can be alcohol. It could be going out with friends who are also, let's say let's say it's a friend's birthday. And you're going out and you want to celebrate your friend's birthday. And you're with a group of people that you haven't seen a lot, especially because of after, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that C word, but basically things have opened up even in Canada. So people can actually go out and socialize. And you want to be able to hang out with friends and celebrate. But guess what? They're going to be at a restaurant. They're going to be eating stuff that's not competition friendly. Now, could you bring your own food? Yes. There might be times when you might be saying, I'm so close to show, I don't trust myself. Don't go. Don't go. I know it sucks, but if your friends understand what you do, now they may not understand how difficult it is for you, But it is important to be able to stick with your goals, whether people support you or not. And if you can't be around certain situations that have unhealthy food, even if you brought your own and you don't trust yourself, why take chances? You can always get together with your friends after your show. And again, your true friends may not necessarily totally understand, but they should respect it. And that's what's really important. That's where you find out who your true friends are. And keep in mind, friendships can change over time because you likely met them before you were a bodybuilder. So when you started this bodybuilding thing, they're like, you know what, we don't see you anymore. We want to see you. So it's from a good place. And they want to socialize with you. But even if they don't understand, some friends will be like, okay, we'll see you after the show. You do your thing. We'll come and see you at the show. We'll cheer you on. And then let's go celebrate. Okay, great. But if you're getting a lot of flack from friends that are like, do you have to diet? Can't you just take one day off? Well, if your coach says, hey, you know what? When in doubt, also ask your coach to say, hey, my friend's birthday is coming up. In fact, this has happened to me. I have been really in a really good headspace when it comes to eating and staying on plan. I sent my coach a message the other day. I said, there's a slight issue, 2 words, my mother. So what that meant is my mom sent me an email saying she was going to take me out for my birthday, which is coming up. No, I didn't have a choice in this matter. So I asked my coach, I said, this is not the kind of place where she wants to take me where I'm going to be able to be eating just a burger and fries, even if I was allowed. So I said, just say the word and I'll say no to my mother. And he said, no, you know what? Because we're where we are in your prep, you can do this for the one meal, enjoy it. And now that we know that you're going to be cheating on that day and that like a good cheat meal that day, we can plan what you're going to eat before and after to get, and it's going to be mostly water weight anyway. And again, it's one meal. We're not talking an all day, eat fest. It's going to be one meal. It's going to be a good meal, but it's going to be one meal. So I asked my coach and he said yes, but I was fully prepared. If he said, you know what, Leslie, you're not as far along as we need you to be at this point in time. I think it'd be, best if you can stay on plan and do what you need to do to stay on plan. Then I would have said no to my mother. Wouldn't be the first time, and it may not be the last time I say no, but my mom knows she wants me to go for dinner, and I know it comes from a good place because she just wants to take me out for my birthday. It's not a crime, but I am so adamant about my goals. I'm very focused. I wasn't always this way, though, guys. When you see me mentally strong, it's taken me a long time and a lot of practice. Think of your weakest body part. Think of the one body part that just won't grow. There are ways to get it to grow. Now, you might need to talk to certain people, and it could be an osteopath, could be a coach, could be certain trainers that can help you get there as far as trying to stimulate as much as possible to get that growth. I found out that I learned how to shut off my hamstrings when I was doing deadlifts. Didn't realize I was doing that, but now I know how to reactivate my hamstrings, which is a good thing. So how did I get on this tangent? What were we talking about? Okay, so we're talking about food. I'm sorry, guys, I got off track. So going back to distractions from bodybuilding, food is what we were talking about. If you have something coming up, check with your coach. If they say no and you want to stay in the zone, don't be around temptations. Now, some people, again, are great. They're like, you know what? I don't want to sacrifice having fun. I want a social life. I want to have that balance. And I'm good with taking my food. I can bring my cod and my green beans and be in a restaurant and they can eat whatever they want and I'll eat my healthy food and I'm good. That's great. If you can do that, then do that. I'm just saying I'm not one of those. I know my limitations and I respect them. So what I mean by that is then I won't go out. That's for me. I'm not saying for everybody. If you have the willpower to be able to go to a restaurant and bring your food. I don't have a problem eating my food. That's not the issue. It's just when I see all this other stuff like bruschetta and all this other, like I love breads and stuff. So when they bring that bread basket, especially with its homemade bread and butter, I don't remember the last time I had butter actually, but melted butter, which is so good. So I would rather not go out. And again, that's just me. So if you're like that, if you're like me and I would just say, don't go out and just say, hey, can we celebrate your birthday after your show? If it's your friend's birthday. Okay. Same thing with alcohol. Alcohol, people tend to enjoy drinking with other people. It's a social thing. So if you're going out and you're doing something and you're going to, whether it's drink or eat, and it's not going to be on plan, unfortunately, you're going to have to say no if you want to do, again, we're talking about a bodybuilding competition here. If you're in your off season, that's a little different. If you can incorporate, if you know that if you guys are getting together as, let's say, your cheat, one of your cheats for the week, let's say, and then you plan your workouts and you plan how you're eating to lead up to that. So you can use it as kind of a refuel and then hit a good body part the next day. It could be legs, could be back, something like that. Now, when I say alcohol, I'm not saying get inebriated because it would be very difficult, especially legs, if you have a hangover. I wouldn't recommend training with a hangover. It's up to you, but you won't have the same type of workout. Be clear-headed. How do you drink? And let's say you don't drink a lot, then you might not need to drink a lot in order to be a little bit under the influence. And I'm not saying you can't do that, but alternate water and your alcohol. So if you like beer, wine, whatever, have your glass or the bottle and have some water after that and alternate it. It's also better for your kidneys too. So you can combine it. You can always combine it. Now, again, that's off season. If you're in prep and doing a show, wouldn't do alcohol. The only time you can do alcohol is if your coach tells you to, let's say to take a shot of something or a little red wine before you hit the stage. Not, again, a little bit. We're not talking a big glass before you hit on stage. The reason for why some people, I'm not saying all people, and if your coach does not tell you to do this, do not do this on your own. Don't go solo on choices. Always keep your coach informed. The reason why some coaches will advise you to have some alcohol before you go on stage is that can help you, make you look vascular and pumped up. So I think one of my coaches suggested that, but I said, you know what? Because I don't drink at all. Yes, I'm very boring. The last thing I want to be doing is walking back, like zigzagging on stage because I've had no alcohol in my system for so long. So I'm just not, I would rather eat than drink any day. So, yeah, that's just me. So when we're talking about food or alcohol temptations prevent you from your bodybuilding goals, and if the goal is to step on stage, you have to bypass it, guys. If you don't have that, because again, those are extra calories, and it would be better for your body to have the healthier calories. I know it's not as fun. Remember, there's always after the show. The show traditionally, when people get ready for a prep, is usually like 16 to 20 weeks in general. In general, I know there's going to be exceptions, and then it might be other shows. So you may have a quick off season or go from one show, and let's say you have back-to-back weekends. Okay, so it's closer together, but at some point that show will end, and then you guys go and celebrate. That's fine. I love planning what I'm going to eat the night after my show. In fact, I check out the nearby restaurants. I kind of choose, okay, which restaurant am I going to go to that's close? And what do they have on their menu? So I have it planned out, and I usually do this during peak week, and it's usually a few days before the show. I plan what restaurant I'm going to, what I'm going to eat, appetizer, main course, and dessert. Plus, I actually bring some stuff with me. So I'm all set for food. Because when you deprive yourself, then you have a good idea of what you're going to eat. And I know a lot of people, they like pizza, and it's not that I dislike pizza. It's because I don't have a lot of cheats in my life, generally speaking. Maybe when I retire, I will, but until I retire, I don't have a lot of cheats. So when I do, I want it to be food I really, really like. So I like pizza, but there's other foods I really, really like more. And then you really value them. So keep that in mind. Again, it's not to say you can't have, whether it's Mexican food or whatever food that you really, really love, but you might have to table it. And that's okay. That's for later. When you're thinking about your bodybuilding goals, you got to think of, okay, my competition is going to, let's say, well, in Canada, we have something called Canada Day coming up. So that's July. For us, it's July 1st. For you guys in the States, July 4th, Independence Day. There's going to be likely some competition. There's going to be some holidays and some, let's say, barbecues. Who doesn't like a good barbecue? Well, you can have chicken without the barbecue sauce and bring your own seasoning. That can be done. Baguettes. Genevieve. Baguettes. Genevieve, if you can make me a baguette, I don't know if I need the butter. I should throw in butter anyway, but I would love a baguette. Not yet. I'm really good. But after my show, I would love baguettes and homemade cookies. There's nothing like homemade cookies. Like chocolate chip, stuff with peanut butter. I don't know. Red velvet. I don't know. What kind is your favorite chocolate chip cookies or cookies? No, strict diet. So one of the pieces that someone brought up on the Instagram page is, it's hard for me to get to my bodybuilding goals because the diet's so bloody strict. And it is. I'm not going to lie. Everything has to be measured. Don't eyeball it. If your diet says a certain number of grams of rice and you measure it out so you know what it looks like. So then you think, okay, now I know approximately how much space it takes out on this plate. I don't need to measure it in the future. I know that's that X number of grams of rice. I'll just eyeball it. Don't eyeball it, guys. Not when you're in prep. If you want to do that in your off season, that's fine. But if you want to be the best you can possibly be, you need to cross every T, dot every I. You need to be as much on point as possible. Is it going to be 100% perfect? No, but where you can make it as perfect as possible is your food scale. Use your food scales. Now, is it strict? Yes. So what do I do when I'm hungry? Well, I think we covered it a little bit on the show, whether it's cleaning, food prep, grocery lists. I watch bodybuilding podcasts all the time and drink a lot of water. Water can help fill you up. Now, for me, water is very boring, so I don't drink as much water if it's on its own. What I will do is add some lemon juice and a little bit of stevia. So it'll be like a lemonade, or I'll do something called Mio. So I don't know if you guys have that in the States, but these little flavor packets where you squirt a little bit of flavoring into the water. So it makes it a certain, like, let's say if you want grape flavor or whatever, I think Kool-Aid has some different flavors, but it gives it, a little bit of flavor. So I find for me, if I have my water flavored, I actually drink more water and that helps fill me up a little bit. By keeping busy, that helps the time go by. So I'm not looking at the clock quite as often as far as saying, when's my next meal? Now, fortunately, even though I'm in prep right now, I'm not doing that right now. That's actually more on my day off from training, so my calories are cut. So I do look at the clock a little bit more for the food piece. But again, I drink a lot of water and I try to keep busy, which for what I do is pretty easy. And also, there are so many good bodybuilding podcasts out there. If you guys want suggestions, just go to in my channel. So I have a whole bunch that you'll see that I follow, and try them out and see if you like them. But strict diet does suck. Diet is basically the word die with a letter T on it. Okay, so especially when you get to the final weeks, that's why a lot of times for people who are watching this that are not bodybuilders, but maybe let's say your boyfriend or girlfriend's a bodybuilder, that's why they might get a little cranky, is because they don't have a lot of carbs in their system, and there's a big correlation between carbs and happiness. If you have a lot of carbs, you can be a lot happier. That's at least my experience. So the strict diet, you just got to buckle down. It's hard. We can get distracted. I'm not saying you don't be tempted. I'm saying when you're tempted with a food or let's say alcohol, I think someone actually put down whiskey and some other drinks in there. I want you to be able to say, okay, what can I do to keep my mind occupied so I can ride this wave of temptation? Because again, temptation is something that builds and builds and builds. If you can keep your mind occupied while it's building into this temptation, eventually the temptation does go back down. You have to ride that wave. And how you do it is distract yourself. And cleaning, what Dave was saying, you know, and I do that too, but I'll end up doing like laundry and food prep and, you know, figuring out stuff for my next podcast. But you guys come up with great ideas, so I don't necessarily need to do that anymore. But, you know, as far as, you know, what can be done, there's always something to do in the house, always. Hawaiian punch flavored drops. Oh, I haven't tried that one. Working on dinner before afternoon. Okay, cool. Now, Hawaiian punch, is that Ancient One? Is that a Kool-Aid flavor, or what? Is that Mio, or which one? What brand sells that? 'Cause Hawaiian punch sounds good. Now, work demanding hours and work stress. Okay, so a lot of times people have a hard time bodybuilding because it's a very rigid lifestyle. As far as eating, let's say every 2.5, 3 hours, you've got to train, you got to get your weight training in, you've got to get your cardio in. And sometimes we end up doing more than once a day for cardio. So let's say you do fasted cardio, you do your weight training later, and let's say you do a third or a second cardio session. That's working out 3 times in one day. That's a lot in one day. If you do that a bunch of days, and again, this is closer to the show, there's not a lot of time left. So then when you've got your work on top of that, and we haven't even talked about family, but work, let's say just work on itself, you can have demanding hours. A lot of people are putting in more than 40 hours a week. How do you fit all this other stuff in? And you may not be able to. And that's where I'm saying, you know, it's not, doesn't mean you can't still do a competition, but you might need to be able to do more of a lower level one if you're going to do it, or you put it on hold, work on just getting your eating in and eating more to bulk, because you're not in a place where you can start cutting, because you can't be consistent with the training as well. If you're going to do something, do it properly. If work is interfering, you may not be able to do both. You may not be able to do a heavy workload, a heavy training schedule with a lot of cardio, and be able to compete. That might be really tricky to do. Now, some people can do it. If you don't have kids, it's actually easier. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's a little easier when you don't have kids. But it's managing your expectations and to say, maybe I'm not in a place right now with my work. Let's say you're doing 60, 80 hours a week. You may not be able to get all your training sessions in your cardio. If you're not able to do that, and again, you can talk to your coach and to say, hey, this is my schedule. This is what I do. Do you think I can do this show? Because it also, how do you look in your off season? Some people are have gone, or let's say they've never competed, so they're pretty far from their goals. So it might be just trying to say, let's get you into more fit, kind of, you know, given the time that you do have. Manage the expectations. Maybe you can't do a show right now, or you could just do a novice show. That's fine too. And then when work calms down a little bit, then we can put the time in to do it properly and to get the results that you want. Because we have to pay for our bills. Its own brand, also the Crush flavor drop. I haven't tried the Crush. Becker's convenience store. Oh, do they have those in Canada? I don't even know the last time I saw Becker's. I think it's been a long time. Okay, I'll have to check the own brand Hawaiian Punch. Next time, Ancient One, I'm going to check that out next time I go shopping. And by the way, food is bloody expensive. Can I just make that comment? I just had to do like my own little iron rage there for a second, my own mental iron rage. Okay, and then the other piece is the not enough money to compete or travel at national shows, and the other costs associated with being a bodybuilder. Okay, so yes, there's the food. I mean, yes, there's the competition costs as far as registering And this is assuming you only do one category. Let's say you do open and you do masters. Let's say you did, I remember when I was doing figure, I did figure, open, figure, masters. I did physique open, figure, masters, figure, or, oh, wait a second, I just mixed that up. I did figure and open masters. I did physique, women's physique, open masters, and grandmasters. How expensive that one was. Okay, so I had one suit for figure, one suit for physique. And yes, I've recycled my suits many times. And then, you know, for women, we have to do this makeup, hair. I remember I did hair extensions. Do you have any idea, guys, how expensive that is? You can do eyelash extensions. What I've learned is that it wrecks my eyelashes, although they look great. I just get the ones that the girls at the show, they put on, and then you just kind of pull off at the end. That's just works better for me. Nails, obviously waxing, but we're not even talking about that. There's also the other cost of, let's say, the food. For one person, the amount of money I spend on groceries for one person is ridiculous, you know? And again, I'm not going out to restaurants. We're talking about just my bodybuilding food. It's crazy. So, yeah, I had to take salmon off my list because if I'm going to have salmon, I'm going to have the salmon they have at Costco, which is really, really good, but it's just too expensive right now. So I took salmon off my list. I'm eating other foods, but it's also the other stuff. It's coaching. Make the investment and get a coach. I strongly recommend that. And opposing coach. So here's the thing, guys. If you've never had a opposing coach before, highly recommend one. Highly, highly recommend one. I'm going to get one myself very soon, actually, and start training with one. There's already someone I have in mind, thanks to someone in this chat. Thank you for recommending. And yeah, we'll be probably corresponding with him pretty soon to start practicing my posing because I'm a little rusty. Because keep in mind, the judges don't care how much weight you can do in the gym. They care about your symmetry. They care about your lines. They care about the muscle. They just care about how you look that day in that moment. They don't care what you looked up like on Instagram. In that moment, compared to everyone else, how do you look? If you can't present your best features and try to hide those weaknesses, you're going to be exposed, and that can make a big difference in your placing. So I'm not saying don't train. That's important. Obviously, eating is really important. So having a coach to help with that would be great. Don't, please, guys, if you listen to nothing else I say, please get a posing coach if you're going to do this, because it can make the world of difference in your placing, especially if after all of that hard work and that sacrifice of not eating that food or going out or the drinks. If you're going to sacrifice, like I said, if you're going to do something, do it properly with it, like I said, with a posing coach. So if you don't have enough money for the bodybuilding, I completely understand, because for me to say the percentage, it's almost embarrassing. It's actually embarrassing. The amount of the percentage of what I made last year from my work that I put into bodybuilding was such a high percentage. I look back and I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not investing any money. So I have to be really careful moving forward on what shows I do, because I'm not a sponsored athlete. That would help a great deal, actually. But I'm not a sponsored athlete. I pay for everything, like a lot of other athletes do. But that also means that affects the number of shows I can do, and it will actually influence when I retire. So we'll see how this year goes. But retirement's not too far away, because like I said, money is a big thing. And if you're not in a position to be able to do this, you can either, now some people are able to do this, not everybody, whether you get a second job, whether let's say you start a YouTube channel, people can do really well. Now, as you guys know, I'm not the greatest, okay, at YouTube. So what you get is very raw. I don't edit, as you see, I don't edit this stuff. I'm just like, this is me. I'm going to make mistakes. I can stutter, but again, this is genuine. This is what you're getting. You're getting me, you're not getting some filtered thing, even my pictures on my Instagram and Facebook, none of them are filtered. I'll tell you right now, none of them are filtered. And if they are filtered, it's because I had a professional photographer maybe fine tune it. So what if they put filters on, so be it, but that wasn't my doing. But at least you know that. I'm being very upfront about that. Join the club. Okay, Kevin. Same in the UK. Food, yes. I don't know. Is there a place in the world where food is not expensive? I don't even know if there is, because it just might be because of the economy. Everywhere is so bloody expensive. But yeah, it's true. There's going to be a lot of people who would be potentially really good bodybuilders, but they can't afford to pay for all these costs because it's expensive. So here's the thing. To be at the really high level anyway, you're going to have some good genetics. To be at the top of the top, when you're talking about, let's say, the guys or the ladies in the Olympia, they work their asses off. Don't get me wrong, but they have genetics. If you don't have the genetics, doesn't mean you can't become a pro, but you may not be able to stand with the, let's say in the first callouts with the top of, the highest people in those categories. I'm not saying you can't try, and it was certainly, if I ever made it on a pro stage and I was beside, Sarah and Natalia Coelho, if I was even the first call out, that would be like a huge, I could retire right then. That'd be my dream, to become actually third in that one. But you know what, guys, it's being realistic. There's nothing wrong. When we talk about bodybuilding, I've been talking about people in, competing. I just want to take a moment to say, to become a bodybuilder, for you to say I'm a bodybuilder does not mean you have to compete. There are bodybuilders I see in my gym, and some of them have never competed. So what makes a bodybuilder? So let's go there. Do you have to compete? You don't have to compete. But what's the bodybuilding lifestyle? It's training on a regular basis with some thought on how you're training. It's not walking to a gym and say, oh, what kind of equipment's free? Maybe I'll do that. No, that's not training. That's working out. There's a difference. Training is having a certain plan of what you're going to do, what body parts are you going to do, what kind of reps, how many sets you're going to do, what's your purpose? Are you going to try to, build up your weaker body parts? One would probably say yes. Not to say you're not going to work on the other ones, but you have a plan in place. You're being diligent about your training. It's not like you're training for 3 weeks and then you take 3-4 months off. No, it's about, for the most part, being very, very regimented about going to the gym. It might be different times of the day, but you're going to the gym on a regular basis. That's one piece. The other piece is the eating. Now, I know Dave Palumbo likes McDonald's. And because of his body type, he has such a really fast metabolism, he could have some type of McDonald's meal probably every day, once a day, and he'd be okay. That's not for everybody, just so you know. People with fast metabolisms, when you follow someone, I'm not against people following or having, admiring certain bodybuilders. That's great, can give us inspiration. But don't always do what they do, because their metabolism and their gifts, as far as their structure, their genetics, might be different. So what worked for them may not work for you. Everyone uses the big Ronnie Coleman example. Please don't train like Ronnie Coleman. His form was not the best. So, and then his eating. Oh my gosh, when I think about the barbecue sauces and everything he would eat, that's not going to work for everybody. In fact, that's not going to work for a lot of people. Keep in mind, the bodybuilding lifestyle is going to be someone who takes care of their health, trains on a regular basis, generally eats decent, like good, but does have their treats, their refeeds, a little bit more than, which is fine. You want to have that balance. Go to your birthday parties and stuff, that's fine. But it's also getting back on track. Now, if you guys have a different definition of being a bodybuilder, please put it in the chat, or if you're watching this after the fact, post it in the comments below. But what I wanted to emphasize is that to become a bodybuilder doesn't mean you have to compete. Yes, If you compete, yes, you're a bodybuilder, but you can be a bodybuilder and not compete too if you live the lifestyle. Yes, I can't believe yeah, McDonald's. It did work, Kevin. It did work for Dave. I wish it worked for me. Yeah, being super in tune with your own body. That's so true, Ancient One, because what worked for Dave would not work for me. And it's not just because he's a male and I'm a female. It's because I have such a shit metabolism. And the thing is that Dave and I are very, very close in age. I don't know who's older, to be honest. Does anyone know how old Dave is, by the way? I don't know if I know he's in his 50s, but I don't know the exact number. If you guys know, put it in the comments. I forget. But generally speaking, not with Dave, again, Dave's kind of an oddball in the respect of he has such a fast metabolism. But when you have a slower metabolism, and I don't know if this is just a female thing, because I think there are females that do have fast metabolisms, but for the most part, as we get older, our metabolisms don't necessarily speed up. Oh, he's 54. Guess what? I turned 54 at the end of this month. So then, okay, he is older than me. Okay. So thank you, Angel One. How do you know this? I wish I knew all this stuff. So when we're talking about, being in tune with your body, find out what works for you versus what works for someone else. Now, if you've never tried something, let's say you've never tried a keto diet as an example. I'm not against you trying it. Try it properly for a period of time, not just for one day, and see how your body responds. Now, just so you know, if anyone tries a keto, like a true keto, it's not unusual to have some headaches for a period of time, but they do clear up. Again, drink a lot of water. Actually, Dave is pretty good about the keto diet if you want to ask him if anyone's interested. Also, there's a lot of stuff online, but be careful. Some of the stuff online, they're not true keto, even though they claim to be keto. So I'm not opposed to you guys trying something new. And again, this isn't your off season or when you're not when you're in prep. Okay, guys, don't go fly solo and do something different. Because otherwise your coach won't know what's working, what's not working. Trust your coach, please. Actually, I want to do an episode with Dave on people who struggle with their coaches, because not all coaches are the same. So I have to remind myself to do that, because I think that would be a really good topic, because there are coaches that think they know a lot of things. And then I've come to know over the years some coaches who weren't as good as they thought, or how they were portraying to be. And I learned some things the hard way. And if it can help other people, that would be great. So I'm wondering if that would be a good topic. Do you guys think that would be a good topic? If you do, please post in the chat, or if you guys would have your own stories, we can certainly bring that to the table. But getting back to the topic, as far as the distractions from bodybuilding, family and kids. Oh my goodness. So you guys have probably heard of Brandon Curry. He's got this amazing wife, Brandy, and adorable kids. So the reason why Brandon can be, and he works his tail off, the reason why he can be so successful and have a family is, keep in mind, he doesn't have another job. This is his job. This is what he does. And his wife takes care of the kids, and she supports him. Brandy is the reason why Brandon is so good, because if he didn't have the support and he still had the kids, he wouldn't be able to train the way he does. He wouldn't be able to eat the way he does. And we're talking about a Mr. Olympia here. Most of us will not become Mr. or Miss Olympia. Okay. I'm not saying don't try, but I'm just saying realistically. So if we're saying, my family or having kids around is hard for me, because it's hard for me to do my bodybuilding goals, because let's say instead of spending time on being regimented in my eating, I have to shuttle. I'm the taxi driver. I'm shuttling my kids to all their activities, their practices, and picking up their friends. And, yes, I can bring my shake, but how many shakes? I'm not supposed to be having more than like two shakes a day, but I'm, between work and everything, I'm having a hard time juggling everything, and I haven't even cut the lawn yet. So yeah, This is also a big reason why I didn't start competing earlier. I waited till I didn't start competing till I was 45, guys, because I was so career oriented, and then I had a family. When my kids got older, they're in their teens now. They're at a different stage. Now I can be a bit more selfish and do this kind of stuff. So it's also a timing thing. So it doesn't, and this is also what I want to get out to people. Yes, does it help to start training when you're in your 20s? Of course, and when you compete. But I'm not saying it's impossible. And I want to kind of be, not necessarily I'm the spokeswoman for this, but whether you're male or female, if you haven't started competing, as long as you're managing your expectations, it's not too late. Again, I'm not saying I'm not going to try to go for my pro card, but I will. But my expectations are, if I don't get that, it's not going to define my identity. So that's what I also mean by expectations. But do I like the bodybuilding lifestyle? Yeah, I've met a lot of cool people because of this. And it's hard because sometimes the people in our lives that are around us, and it could be family, it could be some other friends that are not necessarily in bodybuilding, and they're like, you've changed. You've changed. You're no longer the same person. And it's kind of like, yeah, you know what? You're right. I have changed. And if you're willing to change with me and change as far as your expectations, that we may not be able to get together until later after my show, if you can accept that, great. If you can't, then I may not be able to have you in my life. And that would make me, because then I would seriously consider doing it. And I hope Lee Priest does it. Has everyone seen how good Lee looks? I wish I could look that good. He's got genetics beyond, beyond the wazoo. So that's great. And I'm happy for him. But I would love to see Lee Priest on stage. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Okay, so I'm getting distracted on the topic.